Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with a product review. I generally don't do a technical product review on my channel. I do often unboxings and projects using Your Creative Studio, Global Land, and I think there was one other one I can't remember off the top of my head, but Hippie Crafter reached out to me in email and asked if I would like to review some of their products or pick something to review. So I decided I would go ahead and review their watercolor paper. So let me bring this pad over. It is a 2-pack and it is huge. The paper measures, where's the measurements? Oh my goodness, 11 by 15, sorry, 11 by 15, it's huge. And it is 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, natural white. So I'm going to go ahead and do a review on this, and I'll come back in a second video and do a project. The channel has been asking for me to do some basic, like beginner kinds of watercolor stuff, so I'm going to give it a shot. So as I've mentioned before, I don't do my own drawing, so it's really hard for me to really pursue the world of watercolor and create my own designs because I need to really get that discipline of drawing down before I do that. But what we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and swatch out this new palette that I set. Now this has been sitting here in the studio for about over a month. I refilled this palette, or cleaned it out, reset it, which basically is putting all new paint in, and I haven't even swatched it out. So I created my little swatch thing, and this paper is actually Arches watercolor paper. So this paper from Hippie Crafter is a tall, it's a tall order to come up to the quality of Arches, which is what I typically use. However, that being said, you can find some great watercolor paper that is not Arches, and so we're going to see how this paint performs by doing our swatch. So what I did is I took a piece of the paper and I cut it down to 8 by 10, and you can see this section over here is a little bit narrower, but that's just, I didn't want to fuss with the exact measurements. So because our palette has 7 colors going across and it has 4 rows. So we're going to be swatching out on this piece of paper my new palette. So some of this is not going to be able to be in view because it's just, I don't have enough room. So let me just shift some things here so that I can try to keep the paint in view as well, like that, sort of. Yeah, that's not going to work. So the paint's going to have to go off the side here. Boy, oh boy, yeah. The paint is not the important part, right? We're reviewing the paper. So stay focused, Cara-Renee. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just tip this way. And yeah, but that's too much of a reach. I've got my water container over here. It's a divided pot. And so that's really important when you're doing watercolor, because you want to make sure that you have clean water and dirty water, so that you can rinse off your brush in the dirty water before you grab a new color. Really, really important, so that you don't get muddy colors. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I also like to have a towel. I just keep a towel kind of here in my hand or on my lap. And I noticed I didn't erase my pencil lines. Some of them are atrocious, so let me do that really quick. Really quick. I am a little bit of a perfectionist that way. Not a big deal though. But I wanted to do this on a larger scale too, so that you could see it really well on the video. Oh, let me talk a little bit about the colors too. So this is how I poured out and set my palette. All my colors are listed at the top, and then I also listed if they are a cool color or a warm color. And I split my palette, so I've got my cools all in one place and my warms in another place. And then we have some extras down here. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start with Phthalo Blue. And it is a super vibrant color. And when I swatch, I like to just get my paper wet by just putting some water. Goodness gracious. Terrible. And I'm just going to dip into my Phthalo Blue, and then we're going to drop it in, and we're going to, oh, look at that. That is amazing. I can tell you right now, this paper is great, because I love that swoosh that you get. And now we can kind of pull some of this up so you can see the lighter part of it. But there you go. I am liking this. I love how it There's a happy medium between paint completely absorbing into the paper, sitting and floating on top of the paper, but the happy medium is when it does both, and I feel like that's what this is doing. It's going to do both. So let me show you a close-up here. Look at that beautiful color, and that, so you can see that the absorption into the paper. Sorry for the focus, guys. So beautiful so far, so good. So our next color is going to be cerulean blue, and you can see I'm rinsing my brush in the dirty water and dipping back into the clean water. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to wet this, okay? And then I like to get my brush wet again. We're going to go into the cerulean blue, and we're going to drop that in as well. So you can see it's a little bit of a lighter shade. You can drop more color on one side when you're doing a swatch just to kind of see what it's going to do. We can go in with a little bit of water and just drag that out and let it float. It's floating pretty darn good. I am excited about this. Arches paper is very expensive, and I do apologize. I just went on Amazon to see the price on this, and I neglected to actually pull it up. Let me do that really quick, guys. It actually sells on Amazon, so hold on one second. So it is for the 11 by 15, it's $20 for 2 pads, which is measuring 11 by 15. That is a bargain, I'm telling you right now, guys. That is amazing. Watercolor paper, when you want a good grade, it can be spendy. So now we're going to get the Prussian blue. These are some of my favorite colors, so that's why I reset the palette with them. So, and this is similar to the phthalo blue. It's a little bit, I feel like it's a little bit richer than phthalo. You can kind of see how it's a little bit like, there's a color called Payne's Gray in like acrylic paint and such, and they also have it in watercolor, but it's just super, it's kind of like a blue-gray color. So look at that. Ooh, I am liking this paper. Sweet. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so now we're going to go do our quinacridone. So where it says quin, that's short for quinacridone. So we're going to do quinacridone violet, and I am making sure, since I'm going from that really vibrant blue, which is a very staining color, and I'm wiping my brush until it come up with just water, which is why I like to have a towel versus a paper towel, just to make sure that everything's nice and clean. So now we're going to dip into the quinacridone violet, which is right here. I'm going to drop that in. Oh, I love that whoosh. It's my favorite part of watercolor, is the little whoosh of pigment to paper and water, and how it the watercolor will only go where the paper is wet. So we'll do some of that that experimenting when we do some basic watercolor on the channel. So I'm just wiping some of that off so you can see the lighter bit here. So that's what that looks like. On camera it almost looks red, but it's very definitely on the purple side. So gorgeous, gorgeous color, and really great response on this paper. I love it. Now we're going to do the alizarin crimson. It's a cool red. Very popular color. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. In the palette they can be hard to distinguish, so I'm making sure that I'm dipping into the right one. So we're going to get our alizarin crimson, which is a really red. It's a cool red. Whoops, wrong one. It's a cool red. So we're going to just do that, and then we're going to rinse off, and we're going to get it just a little bit of water on the brush and kind of pull that out so we can see the lighter tones there. That is, I love how this paper is responding. Wow, we'll look at them all up close here in a second when we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep going, and because I don't want the video to be too long, so I'm just going to keep swatching this out. I may speak from time to time, but I'll come back in a minute. This is another one of my favorite colors. It's Nicolazo Gold. It really mixes well with, I even mix it with sap green, even though sap green is a mixed color. It's not a pure pigment. The two mix really well, especially doing leaves and things for flowers. So it's a really great color, and it's performing beautifully on this paper as well. Next is the Cadmium Yellow Light. So see how I don't have any color on my brush when I go to the paper again. It's completely clear water, which is really important if you want clean color. I love this. This paper is amazing. And I got spoiled early on when I started playing with watercolor. I'm pretty picky about my paper, which is why I generally go for Arches or Bockingford or Winsor & Newton professional watercolor paper. So this is pretty cool. This is called Bismuth. It doesn't look familiar to me, so it must be, I set this palette with some leftover paints of my favorite colors. I think this is a similar color to what we just did, but that's okay. We're going to still see how they perform here, and I'm just going to draw that out. I love how it's performing, guys. So this one here, you can see the tones are similar to the Nicolazo Gold, but it has a little bit more green in it, which I think is also really, this really mixes well for leaves. For me, leaves are my favorite thing to paint, which is why I struggle with watercolor, because I'll do the leaves first and then the flower goes awry and I'm like, oh no, I love my leaves, but I don't always like the result of my other painting. I mean, most of the time it's okay, but I guess I'm just dissatisfied because I want to be able to create my own composition, and I haven't done that yet. So I generally just get images off of Pinterest and I just practice with them. I'm not claiming that they're mine, I just use them for practice. So, and this is Yellow Ochre. This is a great color, very multi-use color, beautiful for landscapes and such. So I'm going to try to dig up a picture that I painted for my grandson. I did a wharf, like a rusty wood, what did I just say? Like a fishing shack kind of thing that had the buoys and everything on the side of the building. So I'll see if I can find that image and share it with you guys in the photos. I don't do much watercolor on my channel, so there we go. So, oh, I love sap green, is one of my favorite colors as well. Beautiful color. It's what's called a convenience color because it is a mix, but it's a beautiful mix. And you do want to be careful with watercolors that if you're kind of more looking for a cleaner look in your colors, you want to kind of stay away from a lot of mixed colors, convenience colors, because they can be not as crisp and clean as other one pigment or two pigment colors. So this is Anthracite Blue. So we're going to go into that pot here. Oh, this is a beautiful color. I think this might be something that I hadn't used in another palette. So this reminds me of the Payne's Gray I mentioned. It's kind of got a blue-gray tone to it. So we're going to go ahead and let that spread out a little bit so you can see the color like that. And then Ultramarine Blue. Another, this is one of my favorite colors as well. This mixes great with yellow to make a green. Oh, so pretty. I love the whoosh. And I'm surprised by this, to be honest, you guys. A lot of watercolor paper out on the market that's a little bit less expensive doesn't have this this effect. It doesn't have the whoosh. Oh, I love that, what that's doing. Well, I'll show you a close-up again when I'm done. I'm going to continue on, guys. I always forget this pale green. It makes a really great, if you're doing like foliage or trees, this is your light green, is a really great kind of spring green color. Love it. We're going to go into the cadmium yellow. Cadmium colors, cadmium is actually not very safe, so you don't want to have children working with professional watercolors because cadmium is not good if kiddos get it in their mouths, and you want to make sure if you're using it that you're washing your hands and stuff. So it's actually like, I think California, they can't have it in California, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, so don't quote me. I'm just going off of what I remember of long ago. So you do want to be careful, and yellows tend to be a little less transparent, especially when you get into the cadmium colors. They're a little bit they're less transparent, more opaque. This is Hansa Yellow Deep, another great color. It's got a lighter color. It leans towards lemon, but it is a warm color. There's a watercolor artist I follow and have followed, not as much recently because I've gone off of the watercolor journey a little bit, but it's the Frugal Crafter. That's Lindsay over there, and she's a great person if you want to learn basic watercolor and play around with simple projects. That's where I learned a lot of what I know in terms of cool and warm colors, and how you can actually create a simple palette with just a cold and a warm of every primary color, and you can pretty much make every color from it. So again, cadmium is very opaque, so this cad orange is not going to be as transparent. I should have actually showed you that. Sometimes what Lindsay will do is she'll actually put a black line of Sharpie across her swatch area so that you can see how transparent it is. You can visually tell as well, but it's a little bit trickier. So I need to move my palette because I need to move this up so we can get to the last row. So I'm going to just be crossing over myself here for a moment. Let me move my water here. There we go. So we're on our last row. So we've got Cad Red Light. It's not one of my favorite colors, but I am going to try to use it a little bit more since I reset this palette. Again, it's a cadmium color, so it's going to be less less transparent. Beautiful color though. It's got kind of an orange tone, which is why it's in the warm family versus cool. And I'll try to do a video on what that means too, like how you can tell, and a little bit of color theory too, but not today. Quinacridone Red, and again, that quin always stands for quinacridone. And this is a beautiful color. It's kind of in the pink family. It's one of my favorites. It's a go-to when I do roses and things. Oh, a little bit more in there. Come on. Give me some saturation here. That's not the paper, that's probably the brush. I'm using a pretty small brush, fairly absorbent brush. So a little bit more about watercolor and success. So I believe that good watercolor paper is essential to being successful at watercolor, because if you don't get a good result and you're serious about watercolor, it can make you want to give up, because you're like, this is just not working. It doesn't look like I think it's supposed to look. So brushes and paper and paint, I think, are important. I would say brushes and paper are more important than the quality of the paint. But that's just my personal opinion. So, and I'm not a professional, so I'm just doing this from my perspective. So this is Naphthol Red. I don't tend to use this as either, but it's interesting to see how close it is to the quinacridone red. I bet it's got a lot of the same pigment. It's the same pigment in it, but I don't have that information for you today. So. But that is a beautiful as well. It's a little bit darker than the Quin Red. The Cad Red Light is a great color if you're doing like, what are those really frilly, papery flowers? I can't think of what they're called. Oh, they look like crepe paper. It's going to come to me as soon as I'm done, you know. So this one is turquoise. Isn't that gorgeous? And look at how it's flowing on this paper. I love it. Love it so much. I'm going to go ahead and let that, pull that out a little bit. And I'm going to show you my water when I'm done, because I want you guys to see the importance of keeping your water clean. Because my clean water is virtually completely crystal clear, because of the other bucket that I'm rinsing my brush off in. So I have to tell you a funny story. In kindergarten, children do not understand that you have to rinse your brush off between colors. So they get a brand new little, you know, watercolor palette, Crayola watercolor palette, and the teacher's like, make sure you rinse your brush. Don't forget to rinse your brush in between. And they don't understand, you know, and so all the colors are all mixed up and muddied together, and they don't know, you know, they're just having fun with the paint. So, but it's pretty funny. And as somebody who has done a significant amount of watercolor, I find it, I can get frustrated if I let myself, because I'm like, don't do that. I work with a little Down syndrome girl in kindergarten class, and so she's very stubborn, so she wants to do it her way, so she doesn't like to be corrected at all. So this is quinacridone gold. Did I already do? Oh no, it's different than, it's similar to the nickel azo gold. I didn't realize that when I set the palette. I just wanted a palette that has all my favorite colors in it, that is a mix of makers. So there's probably M. Graham, Winsor Newton, what's another one? I can't think off the top of my head some of the other colors that some of the other watercolor makers right off the top of my head. And then Trans Brown is our last one. This is an amazing, amazing transparent brown. It works really good for limbs and, you know, like the stem on a rose and the thorns and such. Super transparent, really beautiful color. So let's just get that really, really saturated there. I'm loving the balance here between the paint really soaking into the paper and sitting on top of the paper. I think it's a really good combination. So I'm going to show you this up close here in a second. There we go. So let me just set the palette aside here and move my water. Okay, so this is what we have. So we've got our phthalo blue. I love the granulation that I can see, and the granulation is, it's kind of hard to describe. It's where you can see like the speckles, like in this Prussian blue. Quinacridone violet is absolutely gorgeous. In my monitor it looks really pink. It is not. It's more of a purple. That is our alizarin crimson, our quinacridone rose, ultramarine violet. I love how that behaved on the paper. Look at that. Wow. And then we've got over here, we've got the nickel azo gold. Really love how it's sitting on the paper. This is not completely dry. And then there's our azo green, yellow ochre, and sap green. Again, one of my favorite colors. But I love, I mean, just what it's doing here. Sorry, it's hard for me to see my finger because my monitor's backwards. So there we go. So I love how that's sitting on the paper. I just think this is performing beautifully. So there's our cad orange, Hansa yellow deep, cadmium yellow, pale green light. I might have those backwards. I may have those backwards in name. Ultramarine blue. Look at the granulation in the ultramarine blue. And you can see, so another thing that's beautiful about this paper is you can see the cotton in this paper. So another fun fact, let me just finish this. Cad red light, quinacridone red. Sorry for the focus, guys. I'm moving too fast. Naphthol red, turquoise, carmine, quinacridone gold, and transparent brown. So, what was I going to say? The brain is going. I don't remember what I was going to say. I'm so sorry. But that is my review, guys. I absolutely love this paper. I love it. It's thin enough so you can see how it's bowed a little bit, and that's just from the water, and that's perfectly normal. But this is of right up there with arches in terms of you wouldn't even need to tape this down. Like if you were doing a painting, if you're working, oh, I know what I was going to say. If you're working with a paper that has less cotton and more wood pulp, the wood pulp paper does not respond as well as the cotton paper. So I don't know if this tells us how much cotton is in it. I'll see if I can look at the details on Amazon for this paper and see if it gives that specification. It is acid free, which is really important when you're doing watercolor. Also, cold press. What cold press means is that it's rougher. So you can see the texture in this paper. If you look where there's not paint, you can see the texture, and that means that there's good cotton in it, as well as it is cold pressed, meaning it is pressed. Or not, sorry, it's not pressed. So cold pressed means it's not pressed. Hot press is a super smooth watercolor paper in the same grade. I never really work with anything heavier than 140 pound watercolor paper, but the hot press is used more for designs and projects where you want that your project to be super smooth, and I find it very difficult to work with. It is not a preferred paper for me in any brand. I don't like hot press paper, but cold press is fantastic. So, and you can see the texture a little bit on the back. You can see that. So guys, that is it for today. Thumbs up, big thumbs up for the Hippie Crafter and this watercolor paper. We'll come back probably after the first of the year, and we'll do a project using the paints that I just demoed, as well as the paper that we just swatched on. So thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, also, I'm so sorry. The Hippie Crafter is offering 10% off if you use Hippie10 as the discount code. So again, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.